Hello and welcome into this week's edition of The Pole Position right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me tonight. If it is your first time here on Racing News Now, first off, welcome. This is a channel where we talk lots and lots of racing, specifically NASCAR, ARCA, IndyCar, Formula One. Eventually, we will broaden that scope, but for now, that is the main series that we follow. So tonight on The Pole Position, we are recapping this past weekend's events. ARCA, IndyCar, and F1 all off for the weekend, but we had 3 NASCAR races for you, and we'll get to those right now. We'll start off with the Camping World Truck Series. They were in action on Friday from the Dover International Speedway, the 19th annual JEGS 210 laps from the Dover International Speedway after overtime. Fantastic battle for the win at the end between Johnny Sauter and Noah Gragson. Unfortunately, Gragson kind of taking himself out. I know I've seen a lot of people out there saying that it was Johnny Sauter's fault, and believe me, on first look, I thought it was Johnny Sauter's fault too, but after watching the replay, Gragson more or less wrecked himself. There's no other way around that. And I hate to say that because I like Noah Gragson, but it's just it's a racing deal. That's all it is. Johnny Sauter was not at fault for that. Noah Gragson even owned up to it himself. So good on Noah Gragson for that. I gained some respect for him out of that. Not that I didn't have any respect for him before that, but I definitely gained some more respect for him out of that. Johnny Sauter would go on to take the victory in this one, though, in overtime in his Allegiant Airlines Chevy. This would be his 19th win of his career in the Truck Series, second of the 2018 season. Also picked up the stage victory in stage number 2. Matt Crafton, the wily old veteran, the other wily old veteran, Johnny Sauter's kind of a wily old veteran in himself. Matt Crafton comes home in the second position. He was our pick on this one. Never really was a contender in this one. Just kind of found himself there in second on the final restart in overtime. Gave Johnny Sauter a good run. Unfortunately, not really able to work out for him. Good run, though, for Matt Crafton. Rest of your top 5, Justin Haley. David Gilliland did a very strong run in his self-owned 54 truck for DGR Crosley. Comes home in the 4th position. And Harrison Burton, with a strong run, ends up with the best showing for Kyle Busch Motorsports on the day after Noah Gragson's problems. He comes home in the 5th position. Rest of your top 10, Cody Coughlin with a strong run. Joe Nemechek in the 8th and 7th. Ben Rhodes, a strong run for Jesse Little in his second start of the season. Last truck on the lead lap in 9th. And Todd Gilliland rounds out the top 10 in that 4 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports. I want to circle back to Jesse Little here very quickly. Fantastic run out of Jesse Little in this race. 5th in both stages. Ran up front the entire race. Led 2 laps even. He was up there contending for it. And has some pit road problems. Gets his right front tire just about that much across the outer pit stall line into pit road. That's a no-no. That's a penalty. So he would have to do a pass-through after that, and that effectively ended his chances at a win in this race. I was impressed, though. He was able to make it back into the top 10 and back onto the lead lap, so good job on Jesse Little for that one. Very strong run out of him. I'm sure we'll see more great runs out of him into the future. As we look down through the rest of the field, your only other Truck Series regular to win this season, that being Brett Moffitt. He came home in the 12th position, just kind of off all day. Had some problems early, got caught up in a wreck early in the race, and just never could rebound from that. The damage just too severe, kept him far in the back, and 12th actually better than he ran most of the day. So kind of salvaging the day for Brett Moffitt. A lot of guys just not really finding the speed in this one that you would expect to see up front. Specifically, the GMS truck of Dalton Sargent in 13th. The ThorSport truck of Grant Enfinger in 14th. And then we look down through here, Noah Gragson, after his problems there at the very end of the race, comes home in the 20th position. Stuart Friesen got caught up in an accident as well, only completed 153 laps in this one, came home in the 23rd position. Parker Kligerman, that's another one I feel really bad for because he had a fantastic truck. Really, really fast there throughout the second stage. Actually stayed out to get track position there between stage 1 and 2. Held the lead for a while, and then even when he lost the lead to Johnny Sauter, able to hold it there in second, was running really well. Then some smoke starts coming out of the truck. Didn't really lose any speed from it, but he was leaking oil. And finally, NASCAR just said, no, you got to come down pit road and fix this. So they come down pit road and find that they have a broken oil cooler. And that would be the end of the day for Parker Kligerman, which, like I said, I hate to see because he had such a fast truck. He had such a good run on his hands. I think really could have done some great things had he made it to the end of this race. Unfortunately, we never got that chance to see what Parker Kligerman could do at the end of this one. 28th on the day for Parker Kligerman. So now let's head over to the Dover Media Center and we'll see what Mr. Johnny Sauter had to say after his second win of the season.
Well, what a ride, first and foremost. It's not every day you get a truck like that, so obviously we got a brand like Chevrolet and Allegiant Travel and all of our great sponsors, Sunseeker Resorts, GMS Fab, Jags, all the people that help GMS Racing out. I couldn't be more proud to win this race in the fashion that we did, and then to have a couple eventful late race restarts. Obviously Noah there, he came over in victory lane and said it was totally on him, so that's cool. I had a good run on him off of turn 2, and he chopped me, and I said, well, that pretty much gives me the green light to be as aggressive as I want to be, and got into him a little bit. Tried to, rattle him a little bit, and I felt like it worked. And then I don't know what happened on the backstretch. I was just holding my line. I knew that we had the preferred groove, and we're going to be able to carry the momentum. We're just so fast on a long run. I couldn't be more proud of Joe and all these guys, the pit crew today. Just that was an awesome race, and this is such a cool place to race at. This is when you can tame this place, you feel like you've done something. So 2 years in a row, back-to-back wins. Much faster truck this year than last year. I'm pumped. Turned 40 this week, and to have an opportunity to drive stuff like this, it's just, not many guys get this opportunity, and I just want the Gallagher family and Beam and everybody to know how much I appreciate it.
So let's quickly take a look at the truck points following Dover. 5 races into the season. And as we see, Johnny Sauter, Brett Moffitt, still the only guys with wins. Johnny Sauter stays at the top of the board with 2 wins, but we've got some movement in the guys that are in on points now. Most notably at the top, Grant Infinger drops 2 spots. That allows Ben Rhodes and Noah Gragson to move up 1 spot apiece. Stuart Friesen is your biggest drop of the week. He drops 4 spots all the way down to the 10th position, while Justin Haley is your biggest jump. He jumps 4 all the way up into the 7th position. Matt Crafton also up a spot. Let's see here. Cody Coughlin is up 2 now into the 11th position. Austin Hill drops 2 to the 12th position. Wendell Chavis actually jumps 2 spots this week to the 13th position, and Joe Nemechek up 1 spot to 15th. So that's your Camping World Truck Series points following this weekend's JEGS 200 from the Dover International Speedway. Now let's shift gears to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. They were also in Dover this weekend for the 37th annual One Main Financial 200. Also from the Dover International Speedway, this would be on Saturday, 200 laps. Justin Allgaier finally picks up his first win of the season. He led a lot of this one, led the most laps, 104 of the 200 laps, but his teammate Elliott Sadler did not make it easy for him there at the end. If you haven't seen the finish yet, unfortunately we don't have the video of it, but if you haven't seen it, I would recommend going and checking it out after you have watch the pole position here because it was an exciting finish. Beating and banging all the way through that final lap. You wouldn't have known Justin Allgaier and Elliott Sadler were teammates the way they were racing there at the end. It was very exciting. In terms of stage winners, Elliott Sadler was your Stage 1 winner, and Justin Allgaier was the Stage 2 winner. So really, those two were your fast cars throughout the day, so it would make sense that they were the ones battling for the win at the end. Again, though, we picked the guy in second place. I don't know how this continues to happen. I don't know. I've given up trying to figure out the intricacies of predictions because obviously I'm just not meant to predict anything except plate races, which is weird in and of itself, given that As I've said many times on this channel, plate races are like throwing darts at a dartboard, yet I've correctly predicted both Cup plate races this year, so I don't know how that happens. But anyway, back to Dover. This was not a plate race. Rest of your top 5, Daniel Hemrick in third, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick rounds out the top 5. That's 3 of the 4 junior motorsports cars in the top 5. Very impressive showing out of them on Saturday. Rest of your top 10, Johnny Sauter in 6th, filling in that 23 car for Spencer Gallagher if you missed it. He got dinged by the substance abuse policy this past week after his win in Talladega, failed a drug test, and he is out indefinitely until he finishes the NASCAR Road to Recovery program. So in the meantime, Johnny Sauter filled in for this week. Brendan Poole actually tested for them in Charlotte this past week, so there's reports that he may be the fill-in driver beyond this week. We'll just have to see. No official announcement on that just yet, but for this week, it was Johnny Sauter, and after winning on Friday, comes home with a very respectable 6th place finish in that 23 car. Rest of your top 10, ironically, right behind Johnny Sauter, Noah Gragson. Funny how those things work out. Matt Tifton 8th, Austin Cindric in 9th, and Brandon Jones rounds out the top 10. As we look down through the rest of the field, Jeb Burton with a strong finish in 12th in that 3-car for Richard Childress Racing. John Hunter Nemechek in one of his limited starts in 14th. The other junior motorsports car in 15th, that being Michael Annett. Ryan Reed comes home in the 19th position. Seems to be about a normal spot for him this year. I'm a little concerned with this Roush Xfinity program. I don't know if it's just Ryan Reed, but the 60 car hasn't shown a lot of speed either in the races it's been in. No matter who's been in it, Ty Majeski, Chase Briscoe, or Austin Cindric. So I don't know. I'm thinking it's the Roush Xfinity program as a whole, but I'm not really sure on that. Looking down through the rest of the finishing order. Speaking of the 60 car, that being Ty Majeski this week, he got caught up in an accident early. Comes home in the 34th position after completing 129 laps. And that's your results for the One Main Financial 200. Now let's head back over to the Media Center and we'll see what Justin Allgaier had to say after his first win of the season.
I didn't know what to think. You know, obviously, we've got 4 great cars at Junior Motorsports. They just talked about it. I'm sure Elliott talked about it. You know, our team right now has just been amazing. And coming down to the end of the race, you know, I could see Elliott in my mirror. I knew when he would cool his tires down a little bit that he was able to make some runs. And, you know, for me, my spotter, Eddie DeHaan, did a great job of kind of giving me an update on, you know, what lanes were working for him. And for us, if I could just stall the air out in front of him, it seemed like it helped us out a lot. Not necessarily blocking, but just kind of just killing the runs that he was able to get. And I knew that he was going to make a late race charge, you know, with a couple to go. And we'd gotten away from him a little bit in turn 1 and 2 down there and got to turn 3. And I thought the 15 was going to the bottom. He was acting like he was going to the bottom. And I think he saw that we were coming and tried to get out of our way. And when he did, I tried to turn left and slam on the brakes and almost spun myself out. So that would have been a terrible way to end a great day. You know, obviously the contact between Ellie and I mean, he raced me so clean all day. We had great battles throughout the course of the race, and there was just nothing neither one of us could do at that point. You know, we both wanted to win. Obviously, one main being the title sponsor of the race today. He wanted to go to victory lane for us. To have Site 1 Landscape Supply on first race. They had a lot of folks here from that were customers or employees, and so you want to go to victory lane for those guys as well. Just absolutely incredible. Rick Brandt was here, Brandt Professional Agriculture, and he always tells me, call us a party, let's go to victory lane, and we did that today, and to be able to do that and then also win the Xfinity Series Dash for Cash. Absolutely incredible. What Xfinity and Comcast do for this sport is unparalleled in any other sport, and for us, to be able to take that home, to battle it out with a teammate, just really special.
And now we'll take a quick look at the Xfinity point standings following the 10th race of the season. And not a lot of movement this week. As we can see, Justin Allgaier now top of the playoff grid, as he has the most points of the three guys with wins. It's hard to figure out what to exactly say there, because technically we've got four guys with wins, but now that Spencer Gallagher's missed a race, he's not going to be in the playoffs because he's not going to get a waiver for failing a drug test. So technically we have four winners, but he's not in the playoff grid anymore, so we'll just say three winners. But yes, Allgaier the top of the winners, that being now Allgaier, Reddick, and Bell. Not a lot of movement, though, with the guys on points. They're all kind of entrenched in their own little spots. Like, you got a couple guys that are close enough to be having a battle, but then otherwise everybody's kind of set where they are. The only movements this week, Daniel Hemrick jumps over Cole Custer, and Austin Cindric jumps over Ross Chastain. So Austin Cindric now in 12th in the playoff grid. Ross Chastain now in 13th out of the playoff grid. That's your only movement this week. Otherwise, things staying pretty status quo right now in the Xfinity points. That being said, we're going to jump to the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series now. They were in action yesterday from Dover for the 49th annual AAA 400 Drive for Autism. And very dominating run out of Kevin Harvick. Nobody was going to touch him. There were guys, a couple of guys, I think, that might have been able to do something with him, but I don't know if they could have, to be honest with you. The one of those being Kyle Larson, but he had so many problems throughout this race. Started in the back, 3 laps down at one point, finally somehow made his way back to the top 10 at the end of the race. He was one of the few guys, I think, that might have had the speed to do something with Harvick. Otherwise, I don't know that anybody could really do anything with him. Harvick led a race-high 201 laps of the 400 in this one. Won both stages. There just wasn't any touching him. No touching him whatsoever. Teammate Clint Boyer comes home in the second position. Strong run for him, as well as Daniel Suarez. Best run of the season for Daniel Suarez. Very exciting to see him running so well right now. Rest of your top 5, Martin Truex Jr. in 4th, and Kurt Busch rounds out the top 5. That makes 3 Stewart-Haas cars in the top 5 in this race. And very close to having all 4 in the top 10, as you'll see here in a moment. Actually, you can already see it because the graphic's there. So, there you go. Rest of your top 10, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Jimmy Johnson, and Kyle Larson. Interestingly enough, this makes 2 weeks in a row now, I believe, that Jimmy Johnson has led the Hendrick Brigade. And it's not been a strong showing either. 9th place for Jimmy Johnson, and that's the best finish out of any of these Hendrick cars. In fact, that's the best finish out of a Chevrolet in this race, period. Like I said, Larson had some speed. He just had a lot to overcome, and I think he was better than a 10th place car, but that's all he could get to by the end of the race. Still, though, 9th place is the best finish for a Chevrolet in this race. I'm very concerned about this this Camaro this season. They don't seem to really be catching on with it. The Toyotas and especially the Fords seem to have a lot more speed than the Chevys. So that is, if you're a Chevy fan, that's something definitely to be concerned with going forward. Jimmy Johnson, who has been the king of Dover in the past, I don't know that there's ever been anyone better than Jimmy Johnson at Dover. And the best he can do is 9th. And he didn't even have that great of a car all day. In fact, he did get 4th in the second stage, but I believe that's as high as he was all day. 8th in the first stage, so he was there about a 5th to 10th place car most of the day. I just didn't really see the speed that I've become accustomed to seeing out of Jimmy Johnson at Dover, and I'm very worried about that. I'm very worried about the whole Chevy camp going forward, especially these Hendrick guys that are supposed to be the top of the heap for Chevy. And they can only put 2 cars in the top 10 at Dover, and they were 9th and 10th, so they were barely in the top 10. Other notables throughout the field: Eric Almirola, the 4th Stewart-Haas car, comes home in 11th. Chase Elliott in 12th. Last week's winner, Joey Logano, in 13th. Down through the rest of the field, Trevor Bayne in his final race for at least a couple of weeks comes home in the 19th position, as Matt Kenseth returns this week in Kansas in that 6 car. Alex Bowman, a disappointing run out of him in 23rd. Bubba Wallace has been... I don't even know how you would describe Bubba Wallace. He has these weeks where he's there and he's really good and he's running up front. But then he has weeks like this where he does nothing and you almost forget he's in the race. 25th this week for Bubba Wallace. Ryan Newman, Paul Menard, and Kyle Busch all having mechanical problems that relegated them to poor finishes. 33rd, 34th, and 35th, respectively, for Newman, Menard, and Kyle Busch. So that's your results for the AAA 400 Drive for Autism. We'll head back to the media center one more time, and we'll see what Kevin Harvick had to say about getting win number 4 for this season.
Yeah, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've talked so much trash to him all weekend, and he's already told me the karma train is going to run me over when it started raining. But we had a fun weekend just because, you know, when you come to Dover, I feel like Clint is one of the people that you're going to have to beat just because of the fact that he's been so good for so many years here. So, you know, to be able to race with Clint for a win and you know, is for me, like I told him, I said, if I'm not going to win this race today, I said, you need to win this race. So get up there and go after it, because at that point we didn't know what was going to go after happen during the pit stop. But to be able to race with him is a lot of fun, and I'd much rather keep it within the house, you know, than racing with somebody else. But it was fun with Clint, and had a really good battle there with Brad for about 50 laps at the end of the second stage, and we went back and forth and finally were able to get by him. But that was a lot of fun.
And we'll take one last look at points here for the night before wrapping up, that being the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series points. Following this weekend from Dover, not really many changes to look at here. The only change in the win column, obviously, that Kevin Harvick now has 4 wins, and he is back above Kyle Busch. Down in the guys with points, a little bit of shuffling there. Keselowski jumps over Kurt Busch. Blaney jumps over Denny Hamlin. Johnson leapfrogs over Eric Jones as he jumps 2. Bowman falls 2. And Chase Elliott now back in the playoff grid in 16th. He is up 2 spots this week. That's your only movements this week in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series points. So I think that will do it for us tonight. Thank you, as always, for joining me tonight. If you haven't done it already, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing from Racing News Now. Hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. And don't forget to support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/racingnewsnow. It's much appreciated when you do, although it is definitely not required. And all it does is just help us continue to grow and give you quality content into the future. So with that, this has been The Pole Position, where you always start on the front row. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.